Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Covenant Cast. I'm your host, Zach.
And I'm Steven, and we are switching it up a little bit today. You'll notice there's only two of us.
Going
two
wild,
hosts,
just wild.
And we're going to be answering a lot of your questions today on the cast, including a number of things like the Covenant Master Series we just announced, what X-Wing's point cost system might mean for other FFG games, if anything, cooperative and competitive games, how they're different, and how the store might appeal to any of those. And then we're even going to talk about how we do Saga Sets. And probably not all the secrets, but some of it. So stay tuned.
All right, in case you haven't noticed, like you mentioned in the intro, things are changing around here. We talked about it a little bit last week, but it's going to kind of constantly evolve until we land somewhere.
Yeah, we had some ideas. One of those ideas is taking the format that we really have started kicking off in other elements of our content, which is a lot of playing a game while interviewing a person while it's happening. So really liked that, but kind of tried that format a little bit. I did a little testing on my own.
I was thinking about it. It's like, wait a second.
I was sitting there and I was like, okay, so imagine that you're playing a game of X and you're trying to also have an audio experience going on. It would be very difficult. So obviously we weren't ready for that on this cast, and I don't know that we ever will do it. I kind of like saving that for more special, like interviews with designers and that kind of thing.
Like
it feels like a good format for that. Yeah. But what we are doing, obviously, is trying out two people.
That's right. So kick someone off.
This cast would rotate. I guess it's you and I primarily because we didn't put anybody else on the schedule because we thought we would be playing a game, but instead we're not. So we're going to try two. That's obviously way better for us just from a time and editing perspective.
And scheduling. I mean, there's weird little things.
Yeah. So it's nice. And it actually, we've noticed it feels a little bit more relaxed. Doesn't it?
It is a little
There's
more
a certain
I don't know if that's because
here.
Jonathan and Robert aren't in here. I mean, Jonathan's technically over there, but maybe it's, I don't know if it's their energy or it's just the fact of two people. So I'll be excited to try.
We felt a little crunched in here.
Yeah, we
I think
were.
Traditionally.
Yeah.
And then you also, when you have three people, and this is like a normal, sorry about that audio, guys.
Just gone.
This is in a normal situation where you're like around a table with people. Mm-hmm. Like let's say there's more than two people. Three. Yeah. Maybe four even. You know that feeling where you have an idea, but you have to wait for somebody to finish, and then the next person actually gets in there before you can, and then you're
there's
like,
no way to get back to your idea.
And then they move on, and now you're... So sometimes three people or more feels like that. So hopefully we can maybe have a more relaxed and even holistic conversation where we're not having to kind of... that intensity of trying to get your opinion in that you think is valuable. We'll see. And one of the other major changes is we are starting it off with some Covenant and industry news on this podcast, and we're going to, I think, keep doing that. That's a relative thing, I think, for the audience out there. Let us know if it's not. But
during the first year of the cast, we had a lot of fun and a lot of interaction with everyone watching and listening, asking questions, and we'd answer them, and then people would ask questions based on those, and so on and so forth.
I was there, yeah.
So we're still going to do a lot of that, but even here, there's just things happening on a week-to-week basis in the industry that are worth talking about. So we'll cover some of that stuff at the front of episodes for now, at least, and then get to some questions. So
yeah, let's do it. Shall we start?
Kick it off with some news?
I'm going to kick it off with one that's not even on the list for whatever reason, which is that the...
Who makes this list?
This is relatively recent, that Forgotten Age is released for Arkham Horror. That is an extremely exciting thing for me.
You recently played with like some investigators or something, right?
I love, with Matt. So the Matt video that is probably a couple of weeks out at this point is Forgotten Age investigators playing Return to the Night of the Zealot scenario. And that is a fantastic little piece of content. We did the thing. We did the play the game and kind of interview while you play. And it could certainly be better. I think that format, that's the first time I've tried it. And so we'll all get better at that.
Yeah, I was going to say, so I also did one with Jeremy Zorn of Destiny, the designer. And looking back after it was, as soon as it was over, I was like, man,
could have been better.
I could have done this better. It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I think it'll be enjoyable to watch, but at the same time, it was like, just like you do anything, I think it'll get progressively better.
It's just like simple things, like if I'd have just asked a question at the beginning of the Mythos phase every turn, it would have been way better.
Yeah, and I kind of did that in the Battlefield phase with Destiny, where I'd ask a question in between.
Yeah.
But even then, it's just time.
So Forgotten Age is out. That I guess it's still kind of called the Deluxe expansion. It's the bigger box expansion for Arkham Horror, the card game. Introduces a bunch of new investigators, kicks off the Forgotten Age cycle, which has everything to do with this exploration theme. Some of their early content talked about kind of an Aztec-inspired thing, but even talking to Matt, he wasn't directly inspired by that. It was more of that adventure, kind of pulpy feel, not directly like tribal in any way, but Indiana Jones and that kind of, going in and exploring. And it's so cool.
Those
and
Forbidden Temple looking vibes, yeah.
And those explorers are great. The new investigators are great. And of course, we ship that out via subscriptions. And I'm happy to hear that actually got a review on this, that they are starting to arrive for a lot of people on release day, which is a big priority of Robert's, trying to get the operational side of Covenant to have basically the shipping zones that we need to make sure that we can hit as close to that release date as possible, because it would be awesome to get that the day that it's technically arriving at the store.
You imagine going to work typically they release on Thursday, you go to work and you get home and it's just there.
Yeah.
So I guess that's pretty nice.
Happy to hear that that's working.
Speaking of that, we also, FFG announced the second cycle of Legend of the Five Rings.
They did, and with some caveats, kind of.
They had said before that, I think, I remember them announcing that they were going to do 6-pack 6 weeks coming later this year.
Yeah.
But then they've been doing this a little bit. They did it with Legion, and they did it with X-Wing Second Edition announcement, which is they pinned a date, and it's like, this is the release date, way in advance. So the article for 6-pack 6 weeks really revealed very few cards, very few anything, but it was basically, here's the 6-packs, and here's when they're coming out. So the first pack's coming at the end of June.
Okay.
Then there's 4 in July, and the last one comes out the week of Gen Con.
Okay. So we've got another 6-pack 6 weeks injection. I thought it might just be the first cycle.
Yeah,
but they're going for it.
I don't know if they knew. Honestly, we do a lot of stuff like this, right? Where it's like, even with Covenant Masters for Destiny, we announce it, we do it, and it's like, of course, if it's successful and we enjoyed it and it accomplished what we set out to do, we might well have more of that kind of thing.
Right,
or
sort
of like the interviews with the gameplay video. If we try it and it goes well, we might improve upon it and keep doing it, kind of a thing. So, but they officially are committing to that, which I'm curious to know.
Like, did they say all future cycles will be this?
I don't think they've said that.
I wouldn't say that.
Because I get the LCG, when a game first comes out, you want to get a bunch of cards out. Mm-hmm. And I actually am, way back in the day, and I know this is probably not feasible, it was like, I don't know why. And this is with the Thrones mindset, right? Which is very house-based.
Yeah.
But I didn't know why they weren't doing core set and then like literally 8 months of just deluxe expansions.
Yeah.
Like give me every deluxe expansion, set the foundation for every house. But I thought 6-pack 6 weeks, like had they done core set 6-pack 6 weeks, we didn't really know what was happening after that. But it's like that's better than just having to wait. Because 1 pack a month, I remember Star Wars LCG was just gruesome. Yeah.
God rest its soul.
Take on 6-pack 6 weeks?
So yeah, that's actually a great conversation to have, dive in here. So I think it's actually maybe fine. We've talked about LCGs and the kind of inherent problem, especially with the competitive LCGs, where if you want a evolving, like interesting competitive environment, you do need that new content thrown in every now and again. And that those monthly injections, especially spread across a lot of factions, or in this case a lot of clans, don't really give you a lot of movement in the meta.
Because like if you play Phoenix, you get 2 cards, maybe in a pack,
it's like,
or less.
Probably not enough. So maybe, understanding the reality that is attrition in an LCG and in any game, maybe the model is get really hype for 6 packs, like buy them, like a big expansion, buy them or buy the ones that you want, get involved in L5R, play for a month or 2 until it kind of settles down, and then go do something else. And then come back in 6 months and do it again, right? I could see it, we've talked about the TV movie analogy with games and release cycles and that kind of thing, and it feels very much like Arkham and the cooperative games don't need that meta evolving thing happening so often. So they can kind of do that 1 pack a month because it adds story rather than just mechanics, right? The technical aspects. And that feels like I'm following along in a TV series. Like my investigator is getting better. What's the next episode? Like what's the next scenario? What's the next quest? And then maybe with L5R, it's more of those, like a movie kind of thing, where it's a big event, you watch it, you play around for a bit, and then you do your other things, and then you come back and you do it again. It's a sequel and another sequel, another sequel.
And that's what we haven't really ever seen this before. I am interested to see, because right now, right, we're kind of in the valley. You had the peak of the core set followed by 6-packs.
It feels like the valley. It's around here. It feels like the valley.
Then Christmas hits, right? And they were supposed to have the Stronghold events, and those got delayed for whatever reason. And so I could see if there's like a 6-week blitz followed by like a 6 to 12-week event series that's happening. This cool, exciting thing. And then you take a month or two off, right, to cool your jets. And I think that would stop some of the burnout that happens for players. But what we haven't seen yet, and this second cycle will tell all, not all, but a lot, which is, what is the uptake again in the 6-pack 6 weeks? Because, it's really hard to tell when you don't have, monthly data of like what packs, how many packs are selling, how many players are coming out to events. And obviously without specific events like a Stronghold event or consistent packs happening, it's really hard to keep people engaged and then to gauge, like as a retail store, then to gauge whether or not they're going to come back when it's time. And we had the Phoenix Deluxe, is it even called the Deluxe?
It's the clan pack, yeah.
Come out, and that seemed to be received very well. But again, the weird part of that, and something we've talked about a lot, is like it's very faction-based.
It's 100% faction-based. So literally, the faction is on the name of the product.
Yeah, well, the thing about that is like, those Disciples of the Void or something like that.
Yeah, Phoenix clan pack.
But it had cards, right, that was like, made it really good to splash Phoenix as well, so to kind of make it interesting. But even that would be easy to be like, well, it didn't sell like the packs did because it's just the Phoenix players, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the packs, like, there will be factual industry knowledge, at least at like a distributor level, of like, man, we sold more or less of this product at this point.
And it definitely seems like you're in for a dime, or you're in for a dime and for a dollar on this, right? So you're either buying all the packs or like you're out of L5R.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, so like even this whole time, it's like if one pack's coming out a month, it's like being like, $15, I'll play it in the future.
Yeah.
Is easy to do. But then it's like, when it comes time now, in June, it's like, well...
Am I in or not?
Are you going to buy 6-packs or not?
And it does make me kind of pine for a non-faction clan pack. Like, because if you did a non-faction clan pack plus 6-packs as a burst, and then that was the format for a month. It was the core set, whatever the deluxe was, and then those 6-packs.
Sure.
You do that for a month in your like Stronghold event or whatever, and then your next 2 months is open. It's all previous cards. You can do it in everything. And then the new stuff comes out and you play that for a month in a limited way, and then it goes back to open.
That's
and you have all
really
these new...
cool.
I feel like that would be a successful...
I think there's a ton of play in the like OP formats, where it's like 6-pack 6 weeks is its own thing, right? Just get amped. And then it's like, even after that, being like, all right, now there's 4 weeks of just the core set and this cycle. And then there's 4 weeks of, we'll add in the cycle before that. And then there's 4 weeks of everything. And then we get a clan pack. And it's like, bam.
I could do that forever.
Yeah,
probably,
I think
with every game.
I'm curious to see. Again, it's a grand experiment. I'm curious to see how long they do 6-pack 6 weeks, if not forever. And I think this second cycle will tell us more than any of the other ones.
Agreed. Another, just real quick, the L5R Novella and a new Netrunner pack is shipping this week, right? I guess when people are listening, it'll be having shipped this past week.
So when this goes up, assuming you're listening to it,
it'll be this Friday.
Already they have switched to shipping on the FFG upcoming page,
okay,
so that means that they're about 2 weeks out.
So any subscribers are getting processed basically at this point, and then in a couple of weeks the L5R Novellas and the Netrunner packs are shipping out. So if you're listening to this and you're not subscribed to those through our subscription service, then you won't be getting them if you subscribe right now, but you will definitely get the next ones. So if you don't want to miss out on those, give it a look. Then finally we did a Covenant Masters. So we launched the Covenant Masters format. Well, not format, I would say series, idea of this kind of our take on a competitive event series. And the first thing that we're putting through it is a Destiny draft series. So Covenant Masters is probably a title that we'll use on future events for years to come. And it just basically signifies it's a competitive event. We have like the weekend events too that we've been doing, like the Destiny weekend and the Ashes weekend that we did. And those were kind of aimed more at a very casual base. And then the Masters is kind of our take on how can we do competitive play in a way that still is interesting and fulfilling for a non-competitive audience, which is a very difficult thing to do.
And ultimately, inclusive instead of exclusive.
Right.
Where it's welcoming to people and new players feel comfortable coming versus like, I know people even with like store championships and regionals sometimes feel like I'm not a tournament player yet, so I can't go.
Yeah.
And it's like you have no idea. Like that's not what this is.
That's the real question: is how can you make a competitive event that might be somebody's first competitive event, and like they feel really happy to make that the case. So that's what we're trying to do with these Covenant Master Series, and the Destiny Draft is kicking it off because we truly love the format. I mean, it's incredible. Also, it's a lot easier to imagine the way that you fund an event like this, right? Because a draft format, you have packs that are being sold for the draft event, so you can include those in the entry fee. And then you've also got just a ton of prizes that you can do. You've got people getting together in a community space to draft, which is inherently a more inclusive format where we're actually like sitting next to each other and engaging in the game. So for every reason, it just seemed like that was the best way to do it. And we had that set got delayed, which wasn't exactly the reason that we did it, because this has been in the works for a while. Yeah. But it does seem like there's a demand for Destiny players to have something to do because we got that delay.
Well, and I think, it really stemmed from, I was at a regional, the Destiny regional here in Tulsa, and Friday night after the flight, we were hanging out doing some drafts. Saturday night after we got eliminated, we were hanging out doing some drafts. And this kind of idea popped up of like, why don't we do this?
Yeah.
It's like, this is what we want. This is great. And part of that is because draft is so welcoming, right? It's like you can't construct a deck. It's fundamentals Destiny, which is incredible. And a new player can basically own nothing and be on the same footing as a veteran player. And the veteran obviously has the advantage of experience.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think draft was a format that wasn't as supported as we hoped it would be. And it's young. They put out the draft starter not even 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was a while back.
So hopefully FFG also does something.
But we don't want to go to the way of the Star Wars 2v2 format. Star Wars LCG, yeah.
Here's a deluxe. Here's a whole deluxe for this format that we're never going to talk about.
We'll never support it anymore. Yeah, that was it. So honestly, and it comes from a personal interest in just like, this is the format that I want to play.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people out there that would be served by that as well. So this is the Destiny Draft event, Covenant Masters. You can check it out. For anybody who doesn't know about it, if you're a Destiny player, you don't know about it, the gist is there's an all-day Saturday that's 9 rounds of draft play and 3 drafts happening throughout that essentially tournament, but that's kind of a weird way to put it. Event, we would say, yeah. So you draft with random people at the beginning, and then you play 3 rounds, and then this is all paired Swiss style. So if you went 0-2, then your final round of that third round will be against other people who typically went 0-2 or 1-1. And then you'll play that third round, and then you'll stay paired, and then you'll draft a new pod with people, again, who are in your basically zone of records. So who all is doing well, who all is doing poorly. And then you'll draft, and then you'll play 3 more rounds, and then it'll happen again. You'll draft, play 3 more rounds. And so by the end of it, if you're looking for that really competitive group, you'll find them at the very end of the tournament. Your final draft will probably be all of the really serious Destiny players get to draft together, and that makes them feel happy and good, and then really play for those prizes. On the other end, we have a ton of participation prizes for everybody else. We have a ton of participation things that are going to be going on throughout the event. And then by the third draft, if you're just there having a great time and you're at 2 and 4, you're playing with other people who are there having a good time at 2 and 4.
2 and 4, yeah.
So you guys can all just get together, and it's not that, there's just no pressure. That's what we're trying to create, an event that has no real pressure. The competitive people can do their thing, casual people can do their thing, and everybody can do it together, and nobody feel like they're getting cheated out of an opportunity.
Well, and even I won't be surprised if people that don't consider themselves competitive end up making it that far.
Yeah,
because if you know how to play and you can play the fundamentals of Destiny, you're on equal footing. You just play the game and it works out.
And you got to draft 3 times. So if you get that awesome deck the first time, good luck getting it 2 more times in a row. And on the flip, if you get that bad deck the first time, I've drafted some garbage, hot garbage.
But then it's like you're trying to make it out of those first 3 rounds with a win.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to draft a win.
I need one
and then
win.
It's like, I'm coming back. Here we go. 2 more drafts. So yeah, I'm really excited to just, legitimately the idea of hanging out and Destiny drafting with people Friday night and Saturday, just hanging out. Is the best. And I'm a competitive player.
And this is one thing that can't be said enough. We're super interested in anybody who wants to bring somebody who thinks they would enjoy Destiny or wants to play Destiny. You can bring them on Friday night. We can teach them how to play the game.
Sure.
and then they can start drafting the next day as their very first Destiny experience, and it would be totally fine.
Yeah, and that's part of what makes drafts so great, right? And then like now you have some cards, and so now you can keep playing.
That's right.
And it's just a great little system.
And we're also looking over here on the design screen, courtesy of old lead design Jonathan over here, and these prizes / tokens are great.
I keep looking at them, actually.
Participation is getting that custom deck box and a set of custom tokens. And then as you move up to the 32s and the 16s and whatnot, you earn some more tokens and some other stuff.
Yeah, but it'll be worth your time. So anything notable in your week personally before we jump into the questions?
Well, we had a get together out at the Jonathan's Land, which we hear about on the podcast a lot, for Eurovision, which for
Classic.
our friends probably mainly across the pond, that is a much bigger event. And it's essentially like the Olympics plus American Idol, kind of, plus, that's
like
really
the best
it.
performance from each country competes against the other countries.
That's right. It's like everybody gathers, you go through this big preliminary phase, and then you have a performance group or person who is representing an entire country, and they're all pitted against each other. They all do their performances, and then the voting commences. The voting is confusing. It's incredibly confusing.
It is very confusing.
It's in intervals that don't make sense, and oftentimes apparently very political rather than objective.
Wow.
I don't know that for sure, but we actually had a British friend in the room, and she said that it was traditionally somewhat of a statement. The votes were often like this group usually votes for these people, and it's kind of a Euro.
Wow, I didn't know it was so political.
Yeah, right?
That's fascinating.
Yep. And Israel won.
I was going to say,
congrats
Israel,
to them.
the big winners. Yeah. Congrats to you.
Many people thought that they deserved it. My wife, not a huge fan.
Yikes.
So.
Calling Shannon right out. My weekend was full of family birthdays, which was crazy. And beyond that, I actually caught up on Westworld. We've been traveling a lot. We went to Worlds. We did the X-Wing 2nd edition filming trip and stuff. But Westworld is getting incredible.
I've got an HBO thing now, by the way.
You gotta watch it.
Well, I meant to tell you. So you guys gotta do this every year. Yeah, every year. So what happens
Hot
is
tip here.
You have cable internet, right? And then every year it goes up because you lose your promotional price. And so I got on live chat and I was just like, hey, AT&T is offering this thing for $40 and it's comparable, and I was being charged like 60 something, which was mainly true. And then. So they're like, oh yeah.
Morally questionable activity
No,
going
it
on
was
here.
true. It was true. I linked him to
right.
it. I maybe embellished it a little bit, and then it was like, okay, we want to make you, we'll do whatever. And then they offered we'll lower the price by $10, we'll double your speed, and we'll give you 24 months free of HBO Go and this contour thing that they do, Cox does with where you watch live TV, 50 channels.
Huh.
And I was like, all right.
Seems like a good deal.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Do you want to pay less and get more?
So now I have live HBO and access to all the previous shows. So I really should get back into Westworld.
I will note, I watched the first episode. We have a group that comes over on Sundays to watch it. And the first episode I got done of second season, I had no clue what was going on.
Really?
I got done and I was like, I'm not sure what I just watched.
Okay. That can be good or bad sometimes.
Now I feel like it's great.
Okay.
But at the moment, I was just awash in a sea of confusion. And I think it's 4 episodes in now, and it's I'm very excited for whatever comes next.
Awesome.
So
well,
we'll see.
Sweet.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah,
all right, you ready to dive into some questions?
Yes, let's get to them.
If you're listening or watching for the first time, you can use the hashtag AskCovenant, and we'll answer your questions right here on the show. That's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, basically anywhere on the internet that we can find a hashtag. And we love answering the questions, so feel free to send them, and we'd be happy to answer it. First question here comes from Toby Garza. In response to our Covenant Master Series announcement, he says, great idea. Could we get a little thought into the price point? That's the price of a box and then some. And then some. And then some.
Yeah, that's correct.
This is so funny.
Yeah, read verbatim from the YouTube comment section there. Sorry, Toby. Let's think about this. Actually,
so entry is $99, right?
Entry is $99. I'm gonna do some math on this.
I can give you a breakdown of this a little bit.
You get 18 packs.
So you get 3 drafts.
Yeah.
And a draft is typically $20. So off the top, you should to play 3 drafts, you're expecting to pay $60. So now you're at $40 for the rest, right?
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about whether it's a regional or a store championship or any kind of event, you're usually paying $10, $20 for cost of entry and some basic prizes. But effectively what we've done is we wanted to make this, again, part of this is about building community and growing the Destiny community, giving an event that bridges the gap between the casual and the competitive players. And so trying to make it as convenient and easy as possible to participate. So a couple of things are included in that. One is sleeves, so you can sleeve your draft deck, right?
You don't have to bring anything.
One is a deck box to hold all your stuff all day long. So you have dice and cards and all that.
And not just a deck box.
It's not like, I was going to say,
literally
it's not just a deck
custom
box.
printed, high quality deck box. Not like an Ultra Pro deck box, which we'll be showing pictures of that probably in the next week or two.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think we have a sample here. And we also, of course, are infusing in prize support into the system, which happens to be part of the cost there. But just for showing up, we're doing a whole set. I think I can say this.
I think it's on the event listing.
Of exclusive tokens that are compatible with Destiny. And I can see them on that screen over there. And I can't stop looking at them. And the first time I saw them, I almost squealed. But they're great, right? So we had to design those, and we're making those, and we're producing those, and everyone that shows up is going to get, basically there's tiers, right? If you show up, you get this token. If you get top, I think it's 36, you get the second token. And if you get top 18, I want to say, or 12.
16 or 12, yeah, it's one of those.
You get the last token. You get more than one token, of course. But very much wanted to push like just participation, getting you most of the things, and then finishing the event. So trying to get top 32 or top 36, getting these tokens. But then we also have a prize that I'm very excited about. I won't say yet, but the top 6 prize that the people in the top 6 are going to get, a prize that the winner's going to get, and then everyone in the top 6 actually qualifies for the championship, which will be structured a lot like the regular qualifiers for this, where you have basically 3 drafts with a cut to the top 6, with a 4th draft effectively. So the top 6 people get a custom prize, an extra draft that day. They also qualify for the championship, which is obviously, if the entry is $100, worth $100 in prizes. So it stacks up pretty quick, but the fundamental idea is that 60 in draft, probably 30, 40 in entry / prizes / whatever. And
that's the thing about doing a lot of participation prizes too, is it just costs more because you have to make something for everybody rather than like the top person or the top 8. And that's why that's why most people do it that way. You can have a whole bunch of people pay money for the shot at the top prize rather than giving a whole bunch of people most of the stuff and then some people like going for the top prize.
Yeah, because we could have obviously, let's say it's $80, cut the like on top of the draft money in half, right? And then it's like just cut out any prizes for anyone below the top 18.
Lame.
But
weak.
That's not
Don't
exactly ideal. But yeah,
No,
I think that should hopefully give you a kind of a look into why it's priced the way it is. And again, we're trying to make it as accessible as possible. Part of that is price, right? Like not everyone can afford to do a $100 event. But assuming you actually want the product, the value I think is way beyond.
And it's an event too, right? So it's like going to a concert or anything else. Like there's an element of like just being there and having the experience and meeting all of these Destiny players and the logistics of running it and all the employees that it takes to do so and all that kind of stuff. So obviously, like we're trying to not just break even, but make some amount of money on the event itself. And then we have to, bear all the costs of producing all of this stuff. And so you can see how it's actually a pretty slim margin on the event entry, but it's cool because we want to test it out and see if there's enough demand for this kind of an event in the Destiny community to continue doing it and to even make this almost a yearly thing, to have a Destiny draft series that's going on in the off season, kind of post Worlds, pre wherever those sets land. And we are going to be drafting the most recent set, so whenever Way of the Force decides to pop out,
to rain down from the skies,
we'll start drafting it. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Next question here from Landon Dastrup. He says, glad to see the podcast back on YouTube. I never get tired of seeing you play Destiny.
That's nice.
The FFG game I play the most. My question is similar to another one that I saw here. Given that X-Wing will be moving away from printed ship costs, do you think Destiny will follow suit, maybe when the next trilogy starts? Or do you think it would take a complete reboot, like we're seeing with X-Wing, to change the system currently? So if you're not familiar, X-Wing recently announced a second edition. One of the big things in X-Wing is your ship and upgrade cards in first edition had point cost printed on the card, and you had a squad of 100 points, right? So similar with Destiny with the point cost on the bottom of the character. The question is, do we think that Destiny will go the way of X-Wing, and there'll be an app or a list builder where you basically can adjust the point costs on the fly of these characters?
Obviously we don't know. I don't know if you know. I certainly don't know. You get any secret info? But I will say this, I mean, it would be, once you hear the pitch for why they're doing this with X-Wing, and it's like, here's all the stuff that this opens up, here's all the design, I won't say design space in case Robert's listening, but all the design opportunities that this kind of a switch gives a design team, it's like, well,
why wouldn't you?
If it works, then those same principles would naturally apply to all games that are currently restricted by point costs and balancing mechanics that are tied to the card. So I don't think you'd have to reboot Destiny at all to do that. You could just start not doing it.
Well, especially because the game itself has a rotation built in. So all the cards with printed costs will eventually fade out. Plus, we've already seen the Balance of the Force list, which is basically this in a micro form, right? Which is they have a list of characters that they've added point costs to. So like the Captain Phasma from the 2-player starter is, I think, +1 or +2 points. So we're already kind of seeing it. I have to imagine if it is received well and it goes well for X-Wing, it's something they would have to consider at that point. Because I love the line in the podcast we did with the X-Wing designers, which was, by removing the point costs, we could focus instead on making the ship or the pilot feel like the ship and the pilot. And then figure out the point cost later.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's like if you're designing Darth Vader the card, it's like, make it feel like Vader. And if he needs to be 30 points in Destiny, which is the entirety of your squad, he can. But also, like the original Vader that came out in Awakenings, who's now, I think, 21 points for Elite, it's too much.
Yeah, it just costs
too
too
expensive.
Yeah.
And you could just say, okay, nice 16. Now all your
Wouldn't
cards
that
are
be
playable.
cool?
Like,
Wouldn't that be
oh
cool?
my goodness, that's great.
And you have to, I mean, so here's actually what would make me nervous, just honestly, as a player of Legion or Imperial Assault or anything like that. It's like, at what point is it like, okay, well now we need to second edition these games? Because I think those are much harder to not kind of do a reboot kind of thing to get them on track. And not that that's planned, but I don't know how you don't eventually go there.
Think about it. I mean, I think they could do potentially those games without doing a reboot. Imperial Assault already has an app. I mean, they literally already have an app.
That's true.
And so the thing with X-Wing is I think it actually needed a reboot.
It had so many mechanical things they needed. It wasn't just for the point cost. That's true. It was the bullseye arcs and the new cardboard and
100%.
all of the actions being removed.
Like looking at Destiny, it's like there's very little on the structural side that I think needs manipulated.
That's true. You could just remove point cost to all of those games tomorrow. Yeah, okay. Well, then I'm in.
No one's the wiser. And the cool thing, right, and this is what I like, is that even with the printed point cost, like you buy the 2-player starter, right? Or let's say you're a new player and you buy packs. Printed point costs are fine. It's like you don't need to know that you can't use these characters together
that's
anymore,
true.
right? Because it's fine. It's fine in the starter experience. And then, like, it only really matters, too, for your, like, tournaments and competitive play.
And there's no reason you couldn't have printed point costs on those characters. Like in Destiny, like we have Balance of the Force. Put your printed point costs on there to make it easy for anybody who wants to pick the game up and play. But then whenever you're building your list, you get on the app like anything else or the website. And
you know, we get the new core sets, or base sets, I think is what they call them. Set 7, 10, it's basically the first set of every cycle. And, you know, you just, the big in the rule book, it's like building your own squad, tournaments, and it's like a link here. You have to go here to build this thing.
tournamentdeckbuilder.com.
But yeah, I mean, I think we've been talking a long time about the restriction that printed materials put on a game. And so that is a great solution to me of you're no longer bound by what you printed, only bound by what you're printed in terms of theme and flavor.
Yes.
But not balance.
Because we have to be careful because not printing the game at all means digital, which is totally not, it's a totally different vibe. So it is, I think we're in the process of finding that balance now industry-wide, really. And I think Infinity deserves a lot of credit for being one of the first that I recognized
that did
it this way.
And I'll throw a hypothetical at you.
And they even had new additions in spite of that.
And that's, again, the points are not the rules.
Yeah.
That's a different thing. But can you imagine even, and I know this is crazy, I'm just putting it out there, because I know it's crazy. Can you imagine with Netrunner if the runner IDs like deck size and influence
was not printed?
Was changeable? And the starting memory or whatever?
I can imagine.
Just putting that out there. All right, you ready to go to the next question? That's a whole, that could be a topic.
Oh, I got it. I got Tori Smith here. While I really enjoy playing some of the cooperative stuff like Lord of the Rings with the wife and kids, I enjoy the competition of L5R. I feel the takeaway on competitive games versus cooperative is, what is the drive that FFG is going for? Do they want a continued tournament-style game? Do they then make it an FLGS game? Or game night with a family? Or both? Like, who is their target audience? So basically, I think the breakdown that Tori's going for here is competitive games generally live in a tournament environment in a game store, and cooperative games generally live at home, among family, at local game nights that you have friends over to your house and play. And that's fascinating to me because I think that is typically the impression, right? But I do think that impression comes out of a failure, or at least a choice that the local game stores traditionally have been making?
Well, I feel like, I mean, not to get too macro here, but back in the '90s, Magic changed the game. Hobby stores.
You don't say.
Hobby stores had a game that actually was a sustainable engine and a community driver, and people wanted to come play. It wasn't really like that before. I mean, there was a little bit of Games Workshop and 40K going on, but that miniature war games are a different beast as well. And so I think we did an episode called "Are Tournaments Bad for Tabletop?"
Yeah, that sounds like something we'd do.
Something like that. But the short version is I think that the whole industry has kind of been shaped around what made Magic successful. And a lot of that had to do with tournaments, right? And the Swiss tournament and the cut and prizes, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of people's common thing about how to grow a game is we got to have bigger tournaments with bigger prizes.
Yeah.
And my take on it is that the vast majority of people, and I always catch myself when I'm in a coffee shop or something, and I just look around and it's how many of these people do I think actually would be interested in a 5-hour tournament on Saturday? And I'm not sure the number is high. And so the reality is that I think the local game, this applies to a lot of different levels, right? But it's the local game store, I think tournaments are important for people that want tournaments. But that to me is maybe 1% of the entire population. The number of people I know that would rather play Arkham Horror and just tell a story, and it's not a competitive thing, right? It's just an experience, is way higher than the number of people that want to play in a tournament.
Okay, but question. So granted, with competitive versus cooperative on the base level, but there's a couple of caveats here too, which is that a truly kind of competitive game like L5R generally, and just the whole idea of you build your deck and then you go test it, you need more than just the same one friend to do that effectively.
I mean, it at least makes it more enjoyable, I think.
That's where it's attractive to have 20 people in the same place doing that so that everybody can get this diversity of experience with the way they put their decks together and the way that they're competing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be competitive cutthroat, but the diversity of players and ideas to a competitive game is way more important than it is with a cooperative game, because I can play Arkham with Robert and Philip for the next 6 years and never need new people involved to get the same great experience. So I think it makes sense why the games where you have a singular deck that needs an opponent to be interesting, why that has kind of drifted into a space where we need to get as many opponents together as possible.
Yeah.
Right? It makes sense.
And tournaments the easiest form factor for that.
And then why is it that the LGS picked that up? Because that's one thing that the LGS could undoubtedly do that a house couldn't do. Right?
Host 20 people.
I can host 20 people and keep my doors open and make some cash. But that's also why the traditional game store has not been all about getting people together to play Arkham or even board games, because A, it's very hard to monetize that. And then B, you don't need a diversity of players, because most people will come in with their same play group that would normally play at home and just play in a store environment instead. Sure. Because half the fun is like a D&D group. It's the same. It's getting to know the people and those relationships through that cooperative experience. So it is kind of, on one hand, it's like FFG saying, who do we want to target this game for? How do we want to position this game? And then on the other hand, it's how is the gaming together model currently being built and proposed? And your Magic stores, the proposal is we have this diversity of players, and whoever does the best job with their deck is going to get some prizes. But there could be local store models that, and we see this now, that are moving more towards, we don't care about the number of people you might play against. You can play with your same group the entire time. And then you'll also buy some coffee, maybe some beer, some food, and that's the board game cafe model that has kind of taken hold of that. And so I think there's some developments going on here with not only who the games are being targeted at and the recognition that there's a large number of people that don't care about diversity of players in their tournament kind of experience. I think that's one of the big, I think there's a lot of changes going on in that direction, right?
Well, I think the other part of this too, just this could be a dense question if we wanted to go.
Yeah,
but
please.
Just the reality of I'm considering a game like Destiny, which I do often.
Yeah.
But
Probably right now.
thinking about it, yeah. I mean, the tokens are just looking at me over there. But anyways, the thing is, Destiny to me, part of what makes Destiny and X-Wing great are how accessible they are in terms of they can be a tournament game. They're just like, I mean, something like chess, right? It can be a tournament game. It can also be a game you play with your 8-year-old.
That's true.
Like,
yeah.
it's simple enough that you could do that. And I know plenty of people, like Craig and Lee come in on Tuesday nights, grab a beer, and play Destiny almost every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And they also come on tournaments and win. I think they're coming to the Covenant Masters series
good.
and stuff. But the reality is, like, you know, from the designer standpoint, like if we're looking at the different tiers of who's considering what, right? Like the publisher standpoint, I don't know how much of their job is determining, is this a competitive, how much of this is like tournament-oriented competitive gaming? Where it's like Destiny, I think, could just as easily be played at the kitchen table as it is in a big tournament. And there's people that would want to approach it in the different vectors. But I think that way more comes down to the community itself and also the retailers and how they're doing it. Because, like, you could just as easily make Destiny actually saw this online. Someone had made a format for Destiny where your character teams had to be characters who had been on screen together in the movies,
Cool.
right? And then your deck had to literally include either a location, like the art has to either be a location that one of these characters has been, or the actual character themselves in the art. And you had to build a whole deck that way. So like if you're playing Vader, it's like you have to have Vader and someone who's been on screen with Vader, and then every card in your deck has to fit this like weird thematic rule. And it's like and like you could tell a story, right? It's like you could have the Vader character in your story, in your store, in a campaign playing Destiny. And so like, I don't know.
It's an organized play really is deciding much more of that. Organized play is deciding it, the environments in which the games are currently being played, the clubs or in the game stores. But then I'll throw this as a foil to you on the Destiny front is like, imagine the difference between, let's say you and I we hang out all the time and we play games together.
Sure.
Which is pretty true.
Hard to imagine.
And then let's say that one of us is significantly better at games than the other. Which is also true, but I'm not going to tell you who.
I like that we both play more at the same time.
That is only a problem in a game like Destiny or L5R, where the better player, the significantly better player, is not getting challenged, and that can be a significant part of the appeal of the game in the first place. It's like if you and I were to play chess, and I'm a grandmaster and you don't know what you're doing, that's boring.
Yeah, well, it's
For
like
both
we
people.
played Mouse Guard the other day, and it's like
Swords and Strongholds.
Yeah, Swords and Strongholds, and I was like, this is not going well. I don't think it's gonna go well.
So, like, you are the type of person where I could trust that over the course of a day, you would get good enough where we would be on equal footing. But, you know, there are people that are into different aspects of games or that aren't as talented in the more, like, kind of hardline logical aspects of this is the best mechanical move that I can be making. It's like playing against Warren. It's like, I'm never gonna win. So...
Your odds of winning are low, I'll say that.
If you have that going on, that's the dynamic of the group that you're playing in. Let's say it's just two people. I want to find more L5R players or Thrones players to go test myself against. If I'm playing a competitive or a cooperative game, I don't have that at all. Like the number of times where you played like cooperative games on a video game console, and it's like, you know, your little nephew is not great at this, but it's still a blast for both of you. I mean, that's not the case for the more like one-on-one style games.
Sure.
So, that's an important thing to note as to why this environment has kind of happened as it has. And it's not that we throw the baby out with the bathwater on that. It's about providing, well, at least I think, it's providing what the real goal is, which is not win at all costs, but have a lot of different people that you can play against, and then getting them all in the same place. And there are a number of ways to do that, I think, that have not currently been explored.
Sure.
That isn't just the tournament top 8, get a playmat thing.
Typical thing.
Right?
And I think to answer the question, ultimately, it's like, do they want to focus on tournament or cooperative games, competitive or cooperative? And I think the answer is both.
Yeah.
I don't know. They both bring different things to the table. I won't be surprised to see them continue putting out cooperative games and continue putting out competitive games.
Yeah, I think I will say this. I think cooperative games are a better long-term investment for a publisher because the reality of a competitive game, people losing interest means losing that diversity of player base, which means less exciting to play the game. That doesn't happen to cooperative games in the same kind of way.
Now, I would challenge that by saying,
Give me.
Could you design a system for releasing a competitive game that doesn't have the typical, because like it's what happens, right?
Well, Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And those kind of, they're doing it to some degree, right? I mean,
but they have the stats on like they lose,
half
their players every 4 years, or it's some number, right? And so it's like, and that's what I was, even with L5R, I thought they might go this way, which is, going back to the part of what makes Arkham okay to release once a month is that it's like adding to the story and it's a new chapter. And it's like, the thing about an LCG is just particularly is that it can release a new chapter every month. And so you could have a competitive game where every month the game is shifting sands.
Dramatically.
Whether it's telling a story and incorporating that, or it's changing rules, or it's changing what cards are legal, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think, because it's just what happens with a competitive game, even chess, is like you get to a certain point, you kind of cap out, right? You get to your skill level, and then at a certain point, it's like, well, you either continue enjoying this experience or you want a new challenge.
Yeah.
And so with these games, you play X-Wing for 5 years, and at some point, it's like, okay, I've done the exploration. There's not much. Where am I going at this point?
Right. Yeah.
And you either win the whatever level you want to win at, or you don't. And then even if you win, it's like, well, now the pressure's on to just keep winning.
Sure.
And so
there could be an appeal there that keeps people in the game longer as compared to cooperative.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't know.
Anyways.
But it's true. That is true. That's a good point.
All right, on to the final question from Alan Birchill. He asked, do you guys pack all the Destiny Covenant packs yourself? What's your QA quality assurance process? And I assume
Saga Sets.
I assume Alan is referring to Saga Sets. And if you're unfamiliar, it's basically every time a Destiny set comes out, we pre-sell Saga Sets. And these are 1 of every legendary and 2 of every other card in the set. So,
in the booster boxes specifically.
Yeah.
Not in the starters.
So the question, do we pack them ourselves? Yeah, we definitely do. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of packs, unboxing them, organizing them.
It's a lot of scheduling.
The operations team has designed a process that kind of checks and balances throughout the whole thing to make sure that the right cards and dice are getting in each set. And there's also a last step at the end where they're kind of being reviewed, every card in the set, making sure it's everything's there and stuff.
It's a production.
But
Ops is killer on that.
Definitely a production.
It's a huge production.
But yeah, we pack them ourselves.
Yep. There you go. And then we look at them and make sure they're good. That's the QA process. Actually, it's very extensive, the way that all goes. But trade secrets, we'll never tell.
The box, that's right.
All right, have we done it? What do you think? What do you think about the two-person flavor? I kind of was engaged this entire time in a way that feels really nice.
Well, I feel like you have to be.
Yeah, you get soft because nobody's got your back.
When there's 3 people, it's like you and Robert might be talking, and I can be thinking about Destiny for a minute. But no, I thought it was. I'll be curious to see what everyone else thinks.
Yeah, so let's finish this off with a question to the audience. In fact, in this case, unfortunately, I hate to do this, but it will be 2 questions. One, of course, is what do you think of the format? Always happy to hear some thoughts and ideas on that. That's always super helpful for us. Obviously, I think it's probably a given that 3 people is better than. Well, it's not given. I won't go there.
Don't load the.
But I just want to say that, there are other factors aside from just we'd have 16 people on here, but that's kind of unrealistic. And then the actual question: what are the deciding factors for you when considering whether or not to travel to an event? So we just hosted our Destiny Draft Series. What are you considering whenever it's like, this thing that I might want to go to? Should I not? What are the factors? Thank you guys so much for watching and listening.
Until next time, keep playing.